Hey, this is Nem, and I have got a Shiranui Nubatama deck profile. This deck, it's a personal favorite of mine. I don't know if it really has a strong place in the meta right now, but I feel like it has potential. So I'm just going to go ahead and get into it right now. My starter, is really the only one worth running for Dominate, is Stealth Dragon Midori. Replaces itself when a Dominate unit attacks and gives the unit plus 3k. The trigger ratio that it decided to go with was 7 crit, 5 stand, or 7 crit, 5 stand, 4 heal. Because I was deciding whether to run 8 crit, 4 stand or 6 crit, 6 stand, and I was like, why not meet somewhere in the middle? So obviously you're gonna max out on your Noroi. You know, he's the Shiranui crit, and another reason I'll get into that in a bit. I decided to cut 1 Torasada. Torasada is really good for the counter charge, considering this deck is really counterblast heavy, and I'm choosing to run Utsuroi rather than the Unflipper Perfect Guard. I run 4 Onibidoshi, 1 Mashiramen. That's just the Pump into Soul 3k. That's unless you're trying to make magic numbers, and only there's one of, you're not going to see too much of it. But this one is super free. Replaces itself and just gives a 3k to one of your other units, and that's just nuts. If you keep cycling into these guys, you know, it's just free power. And then I run the Fighters Collection heal trigger because there just really isn't a better option. For grade 1, I run 4 Memo Danuki. When you place some Vanguard in rear, bind up the 2 cards and top your deck face down. And when a Dominated unit attacks, you can pump one of them in the soul, and he gets plus 5k. He helps reach 12k by himself, which is pretty good number. And you'll see with some other choices that you know, this is all this deck is about, is trying to get magic numbers on your side of the field and aggressively attacking with your opponent's field. So I run 4 Utsuroi. The only reason I switched to Utsuroi from the Unflipper from Kurenai is because Ikishima still exists, Oracle Think Tank still exists. You need the opportunity to recur Perfect Guards. It's just, you just kind of need it. Also, it's free, so that's fine too. 4 Stride Fighters is self-explanatory, and I run 2 8Ks. So the 8Ks are there to prevent that grade 1 rush when your opponent throws in a bunch of 7Ks. And with any of the 3k buffs, this makes an 11k by itself. So it has both utility early and late game. For the grade 2s, I run 4 Metsu. That's the Vanguard of rear, bind up to 1 card from top of deck face down, and it gets plus 10k when a Dominated unit attacks, and you can take one of those and add it to your hand. The combination of running 4 Memo Danuki and 4 Tamahage Metsu means that you have a kind of nifty toolbox to kind of filter out your bind zone and get the cards that you need. You know, it kind of makes the Narukami matchup and the Deleter matchup a little awkward, but you know, that's okay. I have elected to run 6 10Ks, mostly for just to combat that early game rush. This is a GB deck, and yeah, that's kind of self-explanatory. I run 2 Ungai. Ungai lets you filter a card and choose 2 of your units and 1 of your opponent's unit and adjust their power to 11,000. I used to run 4, but I cut him down as I realized I was kind of seeing him too much, and I only want to see him in certain situations. So the reason why this guy is nice is if you fix Metsu to 11k and then you get his 10k boost, that's a 21k. It makes Memo Danuki a 16k, and if you want an extra attacker, you can make a Noroi 11k, swing with it, swing with your other unit, and then pop Noroi to draw a card. So it can make a lot of good numbers go off. So yeah, I am not running Furai or Genkai because I feel like the Memo Danuki and Tamahage Metsu power creeped it effectively. It just wasn't cost efficient enough for what it was giving you. For the grade 3s, I'm running 4 Shiranui Nubatama, self-explanatory, it's your boss, dominates units, all that good stuff, and more Shige, which your opponent chooses one of its units, or rear guards, gives it 3k, and it gets plus 10k. It's just a 21k beat stick by itself. You can filter it with your Stride Fighter, get Oboro. Not a bad card at all. So those are my explanations for the main deck. I run it a little unconventionally from what other people do. They put more Furais and Genkais in there, and they don't run the 8K, but I feel like that these choices have worked out so far. For the G Zone, I have 4 Magen Tenbu. This card is the main stride unit I go into. Dominate one of your opponent's unit, gets plus 3k for each face-up card in the G Zone. You know, on first stride it's 3k, maybe second stride it's 6 or 9k. It's very good. I like it better than Mujin Lord. Mujin Lord is good when your opponent has at 5 damage during the mid game, but there isn't a lot of window of opportunity to use them that Magen Tenbu isn't better for, in my personal opinion. I run 1 Skumorkin. Skumorkin is kind of a remnant from the Afterimage build, but forcing your opponent to only have 4 cards in their hand and then using your deck to create magic numbers for 21k lanes is pretty good. Pretty good. So I will always find a spot to keep him and dominate as long as my rear guards have that much power. I run 1 Mukuro. Mukuro dominates your opponent's Vanguard and forces it to attack all your opponent's units. It's pretty good in card economy if your opponent... So since it's targeting for an attack and not an effect, let's say you're playing against Aquaforce and they all have resist, this gets past it by just targeting it for attacks. So that matchup can be kind of hard because, you know, it's hard to find an opponent's unit that doesn't have resist. You can use Shiranui's skill to call maybe a non-resist from the drop zone. Maybe it's their stride fodder, so you know they can't intercept it and you make it at 11k, but this kind of helps just clear out their field. I run 1 Getsurukan. If your opponent has an empty field when you ride into Shiranui and stride, sometimes you're kind of forced to go into, sometimes you're forced to just go into Seabreeze just so you have that GB, but you know, why not keep an option where if you have no resources to do something, you can at least get an on-hit and try and discard a card. Like, I run 1 GB8. This GB8 is very, very, very strong. Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1. When your opponent places a card on the Guardian Circle from hand, they discard 2 cards. Like, this is a game finisher. Not much more to say to that. I run Seabreeze, GB deck, you need it. For the G-Guards, I run 2 Zashiki Hime. Zashiki Hime is very good for when your opponent has a lower to mid-size hand on their attacking turn. It can either force them to make a bad decision to pitch a card so that you can beat them next turn or give you free shield. It's not bad at all. I run 2 Gerukan. Takes your opponent's grade 1 in the back row. In the Grand Blue matchup, you can take their Negrabone. Just in most matchups, you can take their booster. You can use it to sort of whittle down Luard fields. It's a very all-around solid card, and even if there isn't much ways to, at least how I've built it, to get Counterblast back, I feel like it's wholly worth it. And then I run 1 Abudetaishi. Now, normally this would be a Rack Dome or a Screw, but I'm not running draw triggers, so just getting the free plus 5k is always pretty good. Especially with the trend of some decks becoming in the meta because they're able to stockpile a lot of cards in their hand. So, yeah, that is my Nubatama deck profile. It's a very simple deck. You get magic numbers, and you force your opponent to get rid of their rear guards through Magen Tenbu or Shiranui Mukuro, or try to pressure them to 5 damage with your big columns and then go into Mujin Lord and try to finish it. So, yeah, thanks for watching.